Matt here with RCRV, and today I'm going to show you several ways you can utilize keyframes to adjust audio while editing in iMovie. Now, if you're using another editing software, most of them still allow you to use keyframes. However, the actual buttons or keystrokes to place a keyframe may vary across different software. However, you'll still get a good sense of how you can utilize keyframes to adjust your audio. So here you see I have two different clips of Sabrina and I together. Now, my audio is a little bit louder because I'm holding the camera, so I'm closer to the microphone, and she is a little bit lower because she's further away. So to start out, let's hear what we have in these two clips.
A little known fact is the best way to get around Mackinac Island is not by horseback, but by piggyback. Right? Listen, you better give me a good tip if you're giving me orders.
I'm not gonna give any tips if you don't go faster.
All right, so you can hear that both her audio right here when I ask her the question and here when she says she's not going to give me anything don't match my audio levels. So right here you see I ask her right and she answers.
Right?
Her yeah is very low. Quick way is just to put your cursor over the timeline here and split the clip, and then we have this separate clip of her talking where we can adjust her audio up or down like that. But there's a better way to do it that gives you a little more control. So let's Command Z and undo those changes. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add keyframes just to raise her volume. So normally when you take your cursor, you can go over your main volume button here and you can adjust your volume up or down, which adjusts the entire clip's volume. So let's set that back to 100. And what we're going to do is take your cursor again over the line that adjusts the audio, and you'll see it transforms the arrows up and down. Now, before pressing your mouse, you're going to press and hold the Option button, and you see the cursor now turns to an arrow with a plus sign. That means this is a location you'd like to add a keyframe. So while still holding Option, click your mouse, and now we've added one keyframe on the audio timeline. So what this signifies is that everything in front of this keyframe will not be changed as far as audio. Now what we have to say is where we want the change to end. So we're going to have to add another keyframe. So again, go up to your audio line till the cursor changes, press and hold Option and click the mouse. And now we've added a second keyframe. That's where we want the change to end. So in essence, this is a fade. Now we can grab the audio at the end of that second keyframe, click and hold on the mouse, and drag the audio up. Now you see that this just faded up from 100% up to 400% for her voice. Now let's see what that sounds like.
Piggyback. Right?
Yeah.
So you see her yeah is a lot louder. That's one example. The second example is in between two pieces of audio. So my voice is here, hers is in the middle, and then my voice is again at the end. Everything is set to 100% right now as far as the audio. So let's find where her voice starts.
Good tip if you're giving me orders.
I'm not gonna give any.
All right, so her voice starts right here. So we're going to keyframe her voice out. So let's go right after my voice, hold down Option, click the mouse, and there's a keyframe. And then we're going to add a second one right there. So now let's grab her audio and we're going to raise it up and see how that sounds.
Give me a good tip if you're giving me orders.
I'm not gonna give any tips if you don't go faster.
All right, so her audio now matches my level of audio talking, which is great, is exactly what we wanted. But as you see now, because I have audio later in the clip, my audio is now spiking into the yellow and almost into the red. So what we need to do is bring that back down to match my original audio in the beginning of the clip. So what we'll do is we're going to find where she stops talking.
You don't go faster.
So it looks like in between these two valleys. So we're going to click on her, we're going to click right there at a keyframe. So we're going to hold down Option, click the mouse, and there's a keyframe, and we're going to add a second one right there. And then we can reach over here and take my audio and drag it back down to 100, which is the original level. Now let's hear what that sounds like.
Listen, you better give me a good tip if you're giving me orders.
I'm not gonna give any tips if you don't go faster.
That's perfect. And now we can hear the audio is balanced between my voice and hers. It's approximately the same level. Now you're going to have to use your ears to hear, and you can adjust. The good thing is you can grab, now that we have two sets of keyframes, you can grab this middle right here and you can adjust this up or down depending on where you need it. Just listen over and over until you match it. Now real quick, I'm going to give you one last tip you can use keyframing for audio, and that is with music. So let's go grab a piece of music. So we go up here to our audio track and we'll choose this YouTube library. That's a pretty safe song. And let's drag this down to our timeline and place it here. So now we want this as background music. By default, this is going to be 100%. So let's take this track down to, say, 13% is good as a background track. And let's hear what that sounds like with the talking.
It's not by horseback, but by piggyback. Right?
Yeah.
Listen, you better give me.
All right, so pretty decent volume, just low in the background, kind of give it some spunk. Now this trick I'm going to show you really works with transition. So let's grab a transition real quick. This is a video transition, and we'll just do a cross blur, and we'll drag it right here into it. So now we have a video transition in between our two clips. Now this transition here by default is set at 1 second. And this trick I'm going to show you works better with longer transitions. So let's see what the clip looks like with the music and transition.
Right?
Yeah.
Listen, you better give me a good tip. You're giving me a order.
All right, not bad. Pretty basic, but not a bad transition. Now there's something we can do to just give it a little more pop and make it seem a little more professional, and that is blip the audio during the transition. So we're going to come down here to our audio track, and we're going to start right at the transition. So put your timeline cursor right where the transition starts and breaks the outgoing clip, and we're going to do a keyframe. So hold down Option, click your mouse, and we've added a keyframe, and then that is where we want it at the highest volume. So we're going to go back from that where we want the transition to start with the audio, and we're going to add a keyframe there. I'm going to do the same thing on the backside. So right when the transition's over, we're going to come down, add a keyframe there, and then just a little bit into the incoming clips audio, we're going to add the last keyframe. Now what this enables us to do is keep our audio level of the background track 13 right here and 13 right here. But what we can do is come in the middle here and we can grab the audio level, and we're just going to bump this up just a tad to about 25%. Now you don't want to overdo it because you really want this subtle, but it's just a little audio bump during the transition to kind of break focus a little bit. Now let's see what that looks like.
Right?
Yeah.
Listen, you better give me a good tip. You're.
All right. So we see that the audio just raises a little bit during the transition. It just gives it a little more pop. Now the last thing I'm going to show you is to fade out audio. So let's say that this clip is the end clip of an entire episode or until something else coming up. So let's get rid of the rest of this audio clip. So we're going to split our clip here. Let's delete that, and then we're going to stretch this out to the end of our clip. All right, so we're going to pretend this is the end of our video. Now iMovie gives you this little option right here, and this is your fade option. So you see this little X at the end of the audio clip. If you hover your cursor over that, you'll see it change to the little left and right arrows. Now what this means is you can click and hold and drag your fade button, and this will fade out your audio.
Go faster.
So it's faded out the music at the end of the clip. And you can also do this with vocals. You can fade in and out of the vocals. But right now, we're just going to be concerned with the background music track. The problem with this fade button is it sometimes, or most of the times, doesn't do what you want. Your control is very limited. You can stretch it way out here, but being that our track is only at 13, the fade doesn't start till right around here at this audio line, and then you can see how severely it fades off. Well, if you're transitioning from a long talking part from music background and you really don't want people to realize that you've cut out the music, you can use keyframes. So here's what we'll do. Our main audio track after this bump is at 13. So we're gonna let that run a little while, and about right here, we're gonna add a keyframe. And then we're gonna take our audio down from 13, let's go down to, let's say 8. Then we follow out the timeline a little bit. We're at a keyframe here. And then we're gonna take it down halfway to about 4. And then towards the end, we're gonna add one more, and then we can grab this and take it down to 0. So what this does is give you a very progressive, slow fade. It's very good for talking points. I don't know that I would do it in this example of this clip, but I'm just showing you all the things you can do with keyframes. So now let's listen to that all together and see what our clip sounds like.
A little known fact is the best way to get around Mackinac Island is not by horseback, but by piggyback. Right?
Yeah.
Listen, you better give me a good tip if you're giving me orders.
I'm not gonna give you any tip if you don't go faster.
Now, one last tip on keyframes. If you ever need to adjust them, all you need to do is go over to the keyframe, click and hold it, and you can drag the keyframe wherever you'd like. So if you would like a little more fade in from this audio bump, you can do that. If you need to move these fades to fade your music, you have total control. And if you ever need to delete one, just hover over one, right click, and then you can delete that keyframe. And that is how you can utilize keyframes to make your workflow a little bit faster and a little bit easier, and give you a lot more control on your audio, both in your video clips and in your background music.